and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining today's Enterprise Leadership Forum conversation provided by DASA. And the topic we're going to focus on today is improving time to market for digital products and services. Next slide, please. I'm your host, Katrina Logie, and I create content strategy and interviews for DASA. Next slide, please. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. Please keep your microphone on mute. If you would like to speak and contribute during the webinar, raise your hand, announce your name and company, or if you prefer to write in the messaging your comments and we will read them out. This is an interactive discussion and your opinions matter. And there will be a poll at the end of the webinar when we close the discussion, and it's very important to have your feedback for future conversations and topics. And if you would like to contribute as a speaker, we would love to hear from you. And as I mentioned, it will be recorded with a wider audience online afterwards. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of overview of today's agenda. I'm going to introduce DASA as an organization, and then I will introduce the speakers and hand over to Irfan Sharif, who will be facilitating today's conversation and interactive discussion, and then we will wrap up at around 4:55 with final questions. Next, please. So the Enterprise Leadership Forum is designed for knowledge sharing amongst our global community for DevOps practitioners, thought leaders, and industry experts that show how they solve specific problems in their organizations and stimulate ideas for the future. Next, please. If we can, yeah, great, put your Great. About DASA. DASA is the world's largest DevOps and Agile association, fostering dialogue, debate, and collaboration amongst leading industry professionals and organizations. With a network of over 300 partner organizations, DASA helps define, inform, and advance the DevOps industry through networking, information sharing, awards, lifelong learning, and certification. It was founded in 2016, as I mentioned, with over 300 plus partners in 48 countries and over 1,000 professionals partake. Next slide, please. So DASA offers the guidance, platforms, and community of experts to enable you to successfully navigate your transformation journey. Next, please. And we do this by going by four main pillars: guidance, by offering access to guidance and materials that are created by various working groups we have in place. And these are aimed to help organizations refine their transformation journeys by learning from the successes of peers and the collective knowledge of experts in the form of best practices and DevOps maturity assessments. And then communities are powerful ways to advance the movement of DevOps. Like today's Enterprise Leadership Forum, we are hoping to grow this into a community where we can share best practices and case studies. And then we are also creating a new education hub, the Talent Academy, which will provide management resources designed to create a continuous learning culture for members and helps to map your team's exact needs to optimize their development. And then recognition. The final is recognition and visibility, helping organizations to celebrate their successes and advancements via awards and helping organizations build employer branding to attract the right talent. With all this in mind, we will now look into more detail. Obviously, today we're going to talk about digital products to market. So I'm going to introduce the speakers now for today's webinar. So Irfan Sharif will be moderating the discussion, and Irfan is DASA Research Director. I'm just going to introduce the speakers and then hand over to you. And then we have Matt Young, who is Chief Executive Officer of User Voice, Mehdi Aloui, who is Managing Solution Architect at Capgemini, Morgan Prass, Managing Consultant at Capgemini Invent. And then we have Sumit Ahua, who is Vice President at Product Operations at Circle. So, Irfan, over to you.
Right, and thank you, Katrina. And good afternoon, folks. It's great to be here with a formidable panel of experts with deep expertise in product management. So I'm really looking forward to a very invigorating discussion around this topic of time to market, improving the time to market of digital products. Before I do that, I just wanted to lay out how the format of this webinar will be. We'll start off with a quick introductions by the speakers. I'll give them a couple of minutes to introduce themselves, and that'll give the audience an idea about the depth of knowledge and expertise they bring to the table. Then we will proceed into our main discussion, where we'll focus on a couple of key themes. One is around time to market, and as somebody mentioned earlier, making sure that you're not only improving your time to market, but you're actually bringing the right product into the market. The second sort of theme that we'll anchor around would be innovation and how you can leverage the power of the network to enable that innovation and opportunities for co-creation and bringing really the people's creativity up front along with the technology. And then we'll talk about the sort of the larger transformation, both from an agile DevOps transformation perspective, but also around the project to product sort of transformation, and how that shift needs a shift also in mindset and culture, and what are some of the experiences of the speakers in that space, and that our audience will then find useful and can take away and apply to their own context. So with that brief sort of introduction into the webinar, can I invite perhaps Sumit out in San Francisco to say a few words about himself. And Sumit, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Irfan, and thank you, DASA team, for having me for this exciting topic. Looking forward to it. So my name is Sumit. I'm based in San Francisco. This is home for me. This is where I've been working for the last 20 plus years. And my background, about 20 plus years, like I said, is all in product management, product marketing, different flavors of product. I currently work at a blockchain Web3 company called Circle, and I'm leading their product strategy and thinking about how we take our products to market in global markets. Prior to this, I was in fintech at PayPal, spent a few years there, mobile, telecom, semiconductors. So my vast experience across different industries, but all in product. And what I've enjoyed the most, really, to be honest, and what relates to this audience and the topics here, is transformation. So everything I've done has been at the disruptive phases of innovation in multiple industries. So I've always enjoyed doing that within the product construct. And I look forward to hearing everybody talk about their own experience and also helping others here understand, what my perspective is. Thank you.
Right, awesome, thank you. And maybe continuing with the North American focus there, we can start, maybe Matt.
Hey everyone, yeah, I'm Matt Young. I'm here in Raleigh, North Carolina, on the opposite coast of the country from Sumit. My background, I got started as a young engineer studying computer science, and have been through the pre-waterfall days, the waterfall days, the Scrum days, the Agile days, and now at User Voice, where I work now. We've moved, in fact, beyond Scrum and Kanban into a couple of other iterations of Agile that are pretty interesting. But my draw to join User Voice was that when I ended up in engineering leadership, I was often really frustrated with what we were being asked to build, because I wasn't necessarily bought in that it was a well-researched idea. So I was attracted to User Voice because the product that we sell helps any company that delivers a digital product really stay connected with their users and what their pain points are and what their needs are. And we try to help product teams really leverage that information to make good strategic and analysis decisions about how to attain better product market fit. So I think I'm really interested in talking about this today, because I think the that having a really efficient, good DevOps process as an organization all needs to start with having the right thing to build in the first place. And there's a lot of interesting ways to get there. So happy to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
All right, thank you. And Mehdi?
Yes, hello everyone. So my name is Mehdi Alaoui. So I'm not actually a managing solution architect, but a managing consultant within Capgemini Invent. And I've been doing digital transformation consulting for 6 years now. And contrary to Matt, I did not know, waterfall days, but the transition from the waterfall to the agile days. So our goal is to help, CAC 40 companies in France and also in Europe to shift to a really waterfall way of working through a new way, more agile, more product-centric, which requires, some change in organization, change of posture, roles, and also the way of processing, their new products and shifting from projects to products, which require quite some support. So that's why we're here and what we are doing in Invent.
All right. And Morgan, do you want to say a few words about yourself, Morgan?
Yes, hi everyone. Sorry, I cannot put my camera. My network is not that good today. But like Mehdi, I'm a managing consultant at Capgemini Invent in France, in Paris. Like him, I'm in the business technology practice, and I'm specialized in digital transformation for companies. So I worked a lot in insurance and public services industries, and specialized in agile transformation and setting up digital factories for big companies in France and Europe, so mostly CAC 40s. And yeah, I'm happy to be here today and discuss how we can deliver project and services faster and accelerate time to market in different kinds of companies across the world.
All right, excellent. Thank you, folks, for bringing your perspectives and presenting it back to the audience here. So maybe we can begin with what I said is the first sort of broad theme we want to cover off in the conversation is around time to market of digital products, right? And speed is the key differentiator these days. While that everything should be optimized for speed of delivery, but as Matt pointed out, there is no value in getting a product out into the field, into the hands of the customer. It's the wrong product. There's always this desire to know what the customer really wants, and digital products uniquely provide that ability to know what the customer wants before you get into full-fledged development. So I want to begin this sort of discussion around how you kind of build this virtuous circle around speed of delivery, where you have these continuous integration and continuous delivery pipelines that have the engineering capabilities to deliver quickly to the market. But how do you integrate that with the lean product management and getting that fast feedback from customers so you're building the right product? And I think from a user voice company perspective, and I think that's the problem you are also trying to help product managers solve, get the view of the users. So maybe we can begin with maybe with Sumit talking about how we can improve the time to market to get product into the hand of the customers, but ensuring that it's the right product. The virtuous circle between speed of delivery and sort of speed of feedback and building the right product.
Sumit, that seems to be definitely an issue which is hard to solve no matter where you are. I think at a broad level, this is something which has to be a focus for the entire company top down, that you are going to be focusing on speed to market. I think it should not be assumed that the entire company, no matter how big or small, knows that that is the focus of the company, right? Easier said than done. And I think the point really is that the entire company has to be centered around that you are there for a certain purpose and certain acts to win in the marketplace through speed and innovation. And I think it all lends to the what we call the PDLC, the product development lifecycle. It's the discovery, it's the solutioning, it's the execution and go-to-market. So if you really think about it, every single thing that a company is doing, should begin or in some way should lean back into continuous discovery of what the customer wants. Fail fast, fail forward. There's so many of these cliches out there about how do you move fast, right? But I think it is true. If the culture of the company, if the actual bottoms-up approach and top-down approach is actually that we will fail fast, we will fail forward, and we're not afraid to try different things, but center that around what the customer needs are, it really becomes more of a mantra for a company. It becomes some of the ethos of the company is that we are here to drive towards speed, but ground that in discovery and what the customer wants. And whatever stems from that will be different iterations of the product, which you should try out, test out, A/B testing, beta, and so on. But I think that's where things should begin. And obviously downstream, the impacts will be different from larger companies, which are much slower. But I think what you'll find now is startups operate that way already. They have a faster process for the product development lifecycle, but larger companies also are adopting ways and methods to become faster by doing more discovery, by being more innovative, by testing more and pushing more through the pipe. So there's definitely, it's an art and a science, not an easy thing to do. But I think that's where it all begins, to have a clear definition of this is our culture, this is what we're going to be doing as a company, and this is the process behind it. So I'll pause. I'm sure others have more to add, but at a conceptual level, that's the way I see things working.
Sure. I think that's a good sort of segue into some of the things maybe Matt has to bring to the table on this perspective. You've been through the whole waterfall to agile to DevOps sort of journey from an engineering perspective, and making sure that the discovery aspect isn't ignored. They say the greatest waste in software is software that's not used. So maybe we can anchor around some of the things that Sumit mentioned around the importance of discovery and how that informs development work.
Yeah, I agree with what Sumit said. It needs to be a cultural norm that you are going to try things and a lot of them are not going to work, and to actually value what you learn. I try to not use the word failure there. A lot of people say like you want to fail fast, but it's not a failure. It's a bullet you dodged, right? It was an opportunity that you took to not make a mistake and an overinvest. One psychological thing that comes into play is most product and engineering mindset people that I've ever met in my life tend towards perfectionism. So to tell people that, we kind of want to put together a prototype, we want to put together something that's just going to give us enough signal to tell us if we're on the right track or not, is kind of uncomfortable for product people and for developers, because they think that the executive team or the bosses might be disappointed in the quality of what they build. But if what you're building is just there to try to test a theory and make sure that you're on the right track in terms of what you're building and that it's going to actually solve a problem, the leadership of the team should celebrate those learnings as they come up. Someone early in my career told me that, and this has stuck with me, that there's an order of magnitude difference at every step along the software development lifecycle. If an idea takes you an hour, and developing that idea into something that you write down and talk about takes 10 hours, putting designs to it might take 100 hours, putting together a prototype might take 1,000 hours, and then 10,000 person hours going into actually developing a production ready thing. That doesn't stop, because even after you deploy it, you've got to support the thing for a long time. You've got to think about the nurturing and feeding of it and marketing it and eventually sunsetting it and all those things. And that really stuck with me, that if you can reduce your investment early and spend a little bit of time trying to shape an idea into something and really understand whether it will work or not before you lift a finger to start coding anything or putting a system together, that's really going to help a lot. As this fits into a DevOps cycle, it becomes really critical to have systems in place that let you put a prototype out there, let you change it, quickly iterate on it, put in front of a small group of people that you trust to try it out and give you feedback. So that cycle of moving quickly is a necessary precursor to establishing a company ethos where you're willing to try a lot of different ideas, knowing full well that many of them will not be the right ones, but you're going to learn from that.
Yeah, that kind of is very informative and instructive in terms of the sort of shift in mindsets that needs to happen to kind of move away from perfection to a learning and a discovery, being in a learning and discovery mode. And I think DevOps also kind of promotes that sort of concept about having fast flow of work from engineering to operations and feedback and continual learning as part of the whole life cycle. And digital products and software lends itself to provide that feedback at a very granular level. The culture and the mindset to actually make use of that feedback, I think, is the big challenge. And I think with that, I think we'll go to the folks with Mehdi and Morgan to speak a little bit about, from their perspective, and around these ideas about that Sumit and Matt alluded to. If you can start with Mehdi then.
Yes, from my perspective, and I will let maybe Morgan share also her ideas on this topic. I totally agree first with what Matt and Sumit just said. From what we experience on our side, let's say in Europe, the fact of reducing that time to market and how to optimize product in order to deliver value quickly, it's something that is really, let's say, more experienced within pure players and let's say small digital agencies or companies that are more digital native. From what we experience, for example, at the insurance company that Morgan was referencing to, we realized that actually we're already working with companies that already some big legacy systems that cannot actually change because they're based on some technology that cannot just switch from a short cycle of improving incrementally your product. So from my perspective, I would say it's something that requires, let's say, more a step-by-step approach, where we try really to work on first the technological part, where we try to find some proof of concepts where we can make them shift to a new way of working with these kind of technologies. Then we start to tackle the organizational and let's say the methodological part of how you can deliver small and more recurrently your product. So let's say in here we experience it. It's something which is not, let's say, democratized, but it's coming slowly, and that's why Morgan was talking about the digital factory. It's one of the, let's say, the first proof of concept that can help us shift to kind of, let's say, improving your time to market. Maybe Morgan, you have some ideas also that would complement what I just said.
I will just complete what you say by saying that, like, for example, in this big insurance company, it's a major company in Europe in the banking and insurance industry, and they have a huge legacy. They have to answer to huge regulatory things for the government. And when we arrived and we wanted to accelerate the time to market to the different projects for delivering digital product or services, we were like kind of stop or slow down, because like people that work there, they have to change the way they think, the way they work. So that's a big gap for them, and it's also a big gap for the clients. So we had to, like, before putting a digital factory there, we have to like start like digital experiences there, using agile and new way of working and setting up new technology platforms to work and accelerate the time to market. But we had to do it like step by step, project by project. And then when they saw that it was working, that the iterative mode was working, we were able to settle a digital factory that helped the digital experiences that we started to grow bigger, to install more technical capacities, to install more agile methods, to deliver more project and faster. But it took times like 2 years of preparation and experiences before the change of mind was enough and we could like really start it.
I wonder if I could ask Morgan and Mehdi a question. Given that you guys work with larger organizations, one thing that I try to make sure in the startups that I work with, I always think that we should be a little bit uncomfortable in the process that we've got. If you're not a little bit uncomfortable, you've gotten complacent and you're probably not, going quite as fast as you could be. Therefore, your time to market is just going to get longer and longer. It's easy for a smaller company to kind of mandate that and iterate more quickly. But in a bigger company, Morgan, you just mentioned taking years at a time to kind of come up with a process. Are they open to having some discomfort and welcoming that as an indicator of growth and maturity?
I would say directly no, but because it's really hard to change the culture of a company and the way they work and how they think, because they were settled like this for years and years. And also in big companies, you have level of hierarchy that are huge. So if you want to change something and challenge them, it's really hard. So I agree that like you need to be challenged and uncomfortable, but in big companies, especially in the banking industry, they don't think like that yet. They are starting to, but it's really hard to bring this.
Sorry, if somebody, and I just to summarize that, perhaps, I think there seems to be a sort of fundamental sort of difference or approaches, at least conceptually, between what are maybe brownfield applications that have to move into sort of the digital age, and applications like the greenfield and the startup world. What I heard from Mehdi and Morgan was there's a technology transformation journey in terms of getting the technology to a point where it can deliver at speed. And then there is the culture and the embedded ways of working that have to transform as well. So that kind of was a broad theme there. And earlier with sort of Matt's and Sumit's sort of conversation, I think the importance of discovery and importance of learning was at the forefront, right? So I think taking these sort of themes forward, perhaps we can talk about the next sort of broad theme we wanted to cover off. Unless folks from anybody else has questions that they want to pose to the audience, we can pause for a bit. Are there any questions? All right. And with that sort of background, right, in terms of the importance of learning and discovery, and acknowledging that there are different ways of working and transitioning brownfield applications with a greenfield, a startup versus an enterprise culture. Maybe we can talk about innovation. And I think the power of the network, and Sumit in his introductory sort of discussions had brought this up in terms of the power of the network, how products are co-built, and how there's an opportunity to co-create, even for enterprise customers, the opportunity to open up their data through APIs. So maybe we can talk about innovation and how we accelerate that innovation, where the opportunities for innovation, and thinking out of the box to get to innovation, while the transformation of the legacy applications can still continue. And just following the same sort of round robin pattern, maybe we'll go back to Sumit again to start that discussion off.
Yeah, and I think this kind of relates to the first question as well, as really, the whole point is twofold, right? That you want to build things that matter. You want to build things that are required by the market, by the customers, that move the needle, and you want to do it fast. And fast is not a bad thing. So I think, if you look around today, the better way to do innovation, the better way to get forward, the better way to build things that really matter, it is not just to lean on your own expertise, internal expertise, or the people that you hire. A lot of things today are built with partnerships, with vendors, with your ecosystem players. In this entire notion of tapping into the ecosystem is nothing new. I think everybody here will agree. that, the most cliched word these days is, it's the ecosystem. But if you think about it, that's really what's making things move at a faster clip. So, being able to understand that, you yourself can't really accomplish what you want to unless you tap into the collective expertise. And like Matt said, dodge bullets at the same time can come from the know-how, crowdsource information and experience from who you're working with. So I think, in terms of pushing forward innovation, how do you use the power of the ecosystem? It's really about that. It's being about open-minded that, we can tap into the companies that are working with us and the customer bases and everybody else to co-create. And this kind of leans into the things that, Morgan and Mehdi work on, is to set up those innovation centers, to invite people in. It's your crowdsourcing ideas, you're crowdsourcing better ways to do things. So I think I'm a firm believer that, we try to go all alone in our journey as a small company, as a large company. It's not going to be as effective as having partnerships and alliances, whether it's your, technology equipment providers that sometimes have a better sense of the future than you may have, right? So if you really take all of these things that can be what I call, your network determines your net worth in a way. So I strongly believe that as a company, especially if you're, like you said, the greenfield, or you've been around for quite some time, you've got to lean in into what's happening. You got to really think about things you can do with your ecosystem to open up your backend platforms and APIs. There's many companies out there today that are still struggling to open up the walled garden. Again, we heard about the example of the banking and the insurance sectors that are very, very legacy oriented. They are written with hard-coded data. Their code bases are extremely archaic. Their systems and configurations and architecture is not cutting edge. But what they're trying to do now more and more is, companies like Walmart and AT&T and the auto manufacturers and some, retailers like Staples and so on. All of these companies are setting up innovation centers. It's not a fancy thing to do. It's a lot of work. But the idea is to accept and acknowledge that, we can be better, we can be faster, we can be more customer centric if we tap into the collective brain power and the ecosystem strength to get faster in delivery. So, I'm a firm believer in really tapping into the ecosystem and the components of it and moving forward. Again, easier said than done, but it really, really comes down to one simple thing. As a company, as an entity, as an enterprise, do you firmly believe that the people that you have can participate in that, or are you creating more and more silos within an enterprise that this is going to be the cool and innovative part of the company that's doing special projects, or can that be diffused into the bloodstream of the larger company? So like I said, easier said than done, but that's the way I approach this thing. And, I welcome others to chime in as well.
Yeah, no, great insights there, Sumit. And I think key points that you brought up, and some of the things that resonated with me is in your net worth equals your network sort of thing. And it ties into what Matt had brought in earlier about changing some of the mindsets around engineering, sort of when there is an aiming for perfection, whereas the need is for prototyping and learning. And what Sumit brought up is still a vaster challenge and a vaster sort of shift in mindset, where you're beginning to collaborate with external parties and opening up sort of that avenue from that sort of moving from a walled garden to kind of collaborating with a larger partner ecosystem. So Matt, from your perspective, how do you sort of see this coming together in terms of how do you accelerate innovation with all these changes going on, with the engineering mindset moving from to embracing prototyping now to partnering with the larger ecosystem to build something creative?
Yeah, what Sumit just said turned on a light bulb in my head, which was in the early days of software development, you wrote everything yourself, and then open source software started to become available, and no one could imagine writing a library today that does date calculations or anything like that. You're going to take one of the well-known bulletproof libraries off the shelf. It's interesting to me that larger companies are still afraid now to use like third-party whole service providers. For example, we outsource our authentication service I don't want to be a company that writes authentication services. I want to be a company that writes software that helps product managers. So there's, in the whole ecosystem of either APIs that are out there or third-party services that are out there, that is a huge lever to take advantage of to speed up your time to market. Don't build things that people have already built for you. Just buy those things. When it comes to innovation,
I think the engineers play a big role in defining that, right?
They do, yeah. There's some pride involved in it. Like people are like, well, no, we can't possibly use the third-party authentication system because what if, blah, blah, blah. So I think the rest of the company needs to like make sure minds are open. And some of it is frankly like an individual engineer or a group of engineers might be interested in working on that problem. So you have to make sure that they have other really interesting, meaty things to work on. And, you know, appeal to their curiosity and say, wouldn't you rather be the person that innovates something that people have never seen before, rather than just creating our own version of social login that's already out there in a number of different ways. I think that leads to what I think is a philosophical change about people's understanding of innovation. Like Sumit said, this shouldn't be your brain power sitting in a walled room coming up with new ideas. It should be your team being highly engaged with your market, really understanding what their problems are. And since it's very hard to come up with some, you know, totally brand new off the wall idea, those come along just once in a blue moon, maybe once in a lifetime for any of us in our professional career. So instead, it's your assembly of other ideas into a better cohesive whole to solve a problem. That really is what innovation means today. I think you're putting together the pieces and parts in a way that really solves real emerging problems better for people. And if you're engaged with your customer base, whether you're just building it in the first place, or you're trying to iterate on it, or you're trying to evolve it, that becomes a critical thing for not only acquiring new customers, but more importantly, retaining the customers that you already have. It's easier than ever to find alternate solutions out there to jump to. Software is easier to build than it's ever been. People are able to put out products. I mean, the time to market thing is important because other people are going to race as fast as they can to put things out. And that makes you vulnerable to competition. So making sure you're staying one step ahead of them and doing it quickly is really critical.
Yeah. And on that note sort of thing, we segue into Mehdi and Morgan for their comments. And you deal with the sort of classic challenges with big clients and legacy ways of working. How do you sort of see them leveraging the power of the network and co-creating?
From my part, actually, it resonates also with what you said, Sumit and Matt, because we try to experience it on different kind of, let's say, industries. So we tried it on the aerospace industry, also in the insurance industry, and depending on the sector and how technologically it's made, I think on the term of innovation, there is always room actually to, let's say, co-create and federate and, let's say, remove silos between different business lines and teams, IT teams, and so on, to make sure that we could leverage the internal network, but also the external network of the companies. And in here in Europe, we see it more and more being done. It's been like for let's say 10 years and so happening. There are some initiatives, some internal initiatives to ensure that there are more entrepreneurial way of working, where people actually are more connected to the market, and they try to design some ideas that they can, let's say, transform into some sort of proof of concept that can really deliver some meaningful value to their clients, and based on how it could ensure some large scale profitability, because let's be honest, it's the real topic. So after that, let's say the digital products can be scaled, and overall we can have some big product teams that could work on how to scale their products. And this is how we worked also with Morgan at the insurance company. It's how we started it first, where we had some co-located teams. So where we made sure that they had some, let's say, we in Agile, we say the pizza team. So we try to make sure to have like developers, business analysts, strategists, people from business that are really grounded in the, let's say, difficulty of the insurance company. And based on that, we try to make sure to quickly propose some ideas that can, let's say, leverage some first value that could be proposed to the market. And based on that, once it worked, we try actually to implement it on different kind of use cases that were really meaningful. And after that, scaling and scaling until it became like that digital factory that we were talking about. And this is all about innovation, like making sure that we can leverage the know-how of the people, their experiences, because they were working like for tens and more, like 20 years of field experience and technology experience and so on. So, and this is how it helped actually to foster, let's say, all that know-how to propose some more, let's say, value and also more reduced time to market based on what we said earlier. Maybe Morgan, you want to complete?
Yeah, I'm just gonna add that on the technical side, like we settled all of these teams on different kind of subject to develop like new products and services that were like pure innovation for the market. And we try to bring out also some third parties, like the insurance company had like a huge incubator or innovation center, and we try to leverage some of the companies that they incubated that created some new technical things for the market, new some innovation, and we try to put it in to leverage it into our project in order to produce and deliver like new projects and services that were more innovative. So we brought some methods, we used people and their know-how, and we brought also some technical innovation in order to be more innovative, like for the whole delivery of the project or services.
Nice. And if I may summarize from what Mehdi said, and that was kind of tying into what Smith and Matt had mentioned earlier, I think the value of bringing different perspectives, and Mehdi, you gave the example of your bringing different domains within the insurance client, the people who are grounded in the business, along with the technology folks. I think that's where the opportunity of innovation comes in, where you have domain experts, bringing different perspectives, and it's that intersection of that expertise that you have innovation happening. And it ties into what Matt mentioned about the problems that are out, because they're infinite problems. Problems are never going to go away. There's ways of solving it through digital products, and finding the right problem to solve is kind of the key to innovating on a regular basis. And perhaps the other thing that you mentioned, Mehdi, was around scaling, right? While a smaller setup might be more nimble and more responsive, the problems change when you try to scale. So I think if we'll pause a bit here to check with Katrina in terms of any questions, Katrina, and how we're doing for time.
We're doing fine. We've got another 15 minutes. Do we have any questions from anyone? I don't see any yet. Hang on a minute. Bill, do you want to chip in?
Sure, I wouldn't mind. Hi, I'm Bill, and I just wanted to comment on the innovators and incubators that are.
Bill, do you want to introduce yourself first? Sorry.
Sure. My name is Bill Bolden, and I'm a fractional CTO of 8 tech startups. I work with very, very early stage startups to help them launch their initial MVPs. And I'm doing that currently with 8 different companies. As a result, I see a lot of incubators and innovators. Some of them have gone through Techstars, others have gone through Y Combinator. And you're starting to see more of these public-private partnerships, like you mentioned with Staples, Comcast, these Walmart, these other big companies are setting up these public-private partnership incubators where they can move fast. And what I've seen over and over again, just adding on to what everyone else has put so excellently, is that you've got to identify these 80-20 moments where you have something that's only 20% of the effort of bringing something to market, but brings 80% of the value. And I find that when launching a new product, it can be easy to get caught up in envisioning what the finished product looks like. And I strongly encourage my startups I work with to instead focus on just delivering that 80% primer of the value to test MVP, bring that to market very quickly, sometimes as quickly as 1 or 2 weeks, by using out-of-box solutions that are pre-made, particularly technologies like Next.js, Vercel, and Auth0, which all play very well together. Sometimes you can bring things to market within 1 or 2 weeks, and I think that you're starting to see large corporations really grab a handle on the startup ecosystem that way. Thanks. That's all I had for now.
A good point, Bill. Thank you. I think that goes back to the heart of build versus buy, right? And Matt alluded to as something there as well. When you have something that is already available, why build it? So leverage it and focus on the layers that matter to your customers and that innovation that needs to happen there, while you use at a lower layer the commodity services available. But that was good. Thanks, Bill. And now moving on to sort of the next theme that we wanted to talk about in the context of what Mehdi had brought up about the issues with scaling, right? And there's a lot of change, especially in sort of legacy enterprises. There's almost unlearning what you've learned and embracing new ways of working, whether it is prototyping or discovery, or whether it's moving from a siloed mentality to working cross-functionally, and then partnering with the broader ecosystem. So I wanted to get the opinion of our experts on how does that shift in culture and mindset happen, and what are some of the practices that you would advocate that would help in making that shift from a sort of a culture that is internally focused and maybe innovation shy to a culture that embraces innovation and is externally focused and customer driven. So I know Sumit and some of you had some comments around your own particular practices with OKRs and grounding around the purpose. Maybe going back again to that theme, we'll start off with Sumit and talk a little bit about what are some of the practices that will help us evolve the culture and the mindsets so that it's aligned with the modern day expectations.
So I was trying to find my mute button here. This topic about culture, we could spend an entire day talking about it. But I think the main thing, business is ruthless, right? There's no mercy in business, right? You've got to be there or you're done. And I think I always tell my teams that, sometimes you make decisions or sometimes decisions get made by you, for you. I'd rather be the one making decisions for myself, for my team, for my company, for my family, versus those being made for me. And I think that's really at the gut of this discussion is that, do you want to be the one driving? You want to be the one making the influence, or do you want to be the one who has to really, toe the line and do things that you may not want to do in the context and construct that you don't want to follow? So it's a really hard question to answer, that how do you put in place things that will define the culture? So I think it really begins with who you have as part of your team. It really is about people. And this is why you always find the larger companies, it takes so long sometimes for them to move the needle, is because the decisions are being made by a small set of people that may not be seeing the entire picture, or being made by the wrong sets of people. In startups, a little bit easier because you have a very small cohort of folks that are more engaged, more intimate, and they can see a homogeneous view of the world versus something that's so isolated and so discrete and so fragmented as it is in larger companies. So in terms of, what do you do to get this culture set up where you're all aligned and moving things faster? It begins, I don't want to say top down, but it's got to be the overall talent pool that you're bringing in. But at some point, it comes to hard decisions that you have to change who's in the company. It has to be, about the skill set and the experience levels you bring in. It's about the behavior patterns that people bring into the companies. So, culture change is not about technology change. It is about people and mindsets and behaviors. Technology is just an enabler. So there is got to be that focus right from the top down, but also a lot of these things bubble up from the bottom that must get recognized. So I think that has to happen, and it has slow impact in many cases, but if done right, it can lead to longevity and permanence versus short-term gains about, oh, let's go hire this team and we're going to accomplish this. Those are deliveries. Those are not fundamental cultural changes.
True.
So,
and maybe, Sumit, if you may permit me, if I can refine it a little bit. I understand the question is really broad in terms of how do you get to a culture that is kind of innovative and focused on that. And maybe the practices, I think it's by doing certain things, the culture evolves, right? And you'd mentioned about OKRs or the whole thing around agile and DevOps transformation, bringing in new practices in place just to evolve that mindset and behavior of, let's say, delivering in small batches versus big batches, right? So is there something you would like to bring to the audience in terms of OKRs and some of the experiences you had with that and how that might have contributed to one, alignment and the sort of gradual transition of culture?
yeah, I mean, again, culture, speed, innovation, build small, trial, test, get it out. All of those things matter. OKRs, the way I think about metrics and objectives, key results, those are designed to give you direction. Those are designed to actually create more behaviors. You'll not always hit those OKRs. It's impossible. However, what it can do is can begin to align the teams on a consistent, predictable set of accomplishments that you all want to get together to. So OKRs, I mean, small teams, big teams, medium-sized teams, doesn't matter who you are. If you don't have those guardrails, you will not know which direction you're going into. So OKRs, I think fundamentally they're defined, in my opinion, to create those behaviors and stay on track with those guardrails. It doesn't matter if the number is 80% or 100%, you will get somewhere. Obviously, you strive for that number for sure. But I think having that constant reminder that these guidelines exist through these OKRs and published in the company. So, the places that I work, the places where I've actually led teams, it's pretty simple. Anybody in the team would know where to find those OKRs. Not just that, but those are driven down and down from up on a regular basis. It should not be a once in a quarter, quarterly planning, product planning as, here, let's talk about OKRs. It's something that we live and breathe just like a culture. Because just like anything that you do in your personal life, if you don't know what it is, even at work, you will not have those guardrails. So, and that keeps you on track. It keeps you, like I said earlier, it's a common theme. Everybody is driving towards the same objective. So I cannot emphasize enough the clarity of having those OKRs right at the beginning of the year, through the quarters, but then revisit, talk about it. It should not be just a poster on the wall or a slide somewhere, right? But it's something that we all strive to do together.
All right. Powerful.
Also, just if I can add something on OKRs, from a return of experience recently, we starting to use this method for the French government. And we settled it at the end of 2021. So we are using it since like a few months now. And Sumit said it's completely right. It helps the company and the people that work in the company to really get aligned and coordinate to our common goal and objectives. And one thing that I recently saw that is really important is that everyone understand really well what are the different objectives and key results that are asked by the company to their employees and to the teams that deliver projects. And also we saw that for the teams, they really work together to build their own OKRs. And we can really see the difference from 2021 and 2022, because now they're all, how can I say, work in the section towards the same goal. And we can see that this year we are closer from our objectives than last year. Because now for people it's really clear. They know what the company is expecting and they know how to reach it. But it is true also that you can have an objective, but you never attain it at 100%. It's impossible. We consider that at 70% it's attained and it's okay.
Thank you, Morgan. And just in terms of just doing a quick time check here, we have 5 more minutes. I want to loop in Matt and Mehdi for their comments and tie in the sort of the conversation we had about scaling. And I think OKR does help in the scaling and alignment. And Matt, you had some comments about grounding on the purpose and why we are doing something and having that broad understanding. Perhaps you would like to talk to that?
Yeah, I think it's just a variant on, OKRs are a good mechanism to do this, but making sure that you have a clear, relatable goal that applies to every role in the company. As an example, if you want to increase your growth rate by 30%, that is a concrete number. And in a SaaS model, at least, there's retention, upsell, and new business that are the 3 things that do that. And if you have these very clear, understandable things, then a customer success manager, a salesperson, a software engineer, a product manager can say, well, I have 3 levers that I can pull on. How can I create something that we do that makes that happen? One interesting organizational change that we made is that I recognized that our product managers and our engineers were measuring their results based on adoption and velocity in respective order. And neither of those things relate to growth rate. They have nothing to do with each other. And they're also at odds with one another. So I got rid of any measurement of that kind of thing. Like a velocity number to me does not matter. You might want to use it internally on an engineering team to see if one change helps or not. But as those numbers relate to the overall company goal, there needs to be a direct tie to whatever the OKRs are or the company goals are. And so that you can make a decision, so that any person working on the team can make individual decisions every day that relate to that goal.
All right, thank you. And maybe we'll end off with Matt. Your words, your last words of this is for this webinar, Matt. And sorry, Mehdi, I got that wrong there. Sorry, Mehdi, I was looking at the wrong screen. So your thoughts, Mehdi, in the context of what you have seen in the field and scaling.
I guess I pretty much agree with the inputs that were shared. I think from my perspective, and it was really pretty much close, of course, because we work on the same context as Morgan on this topic. For sure, the idea is to, if I jump back to the OKRs, because it's one way actually that can help you bring more innovation and ensure more, let's say, improve the culture of innovation, because maybe as also as Sami said, the big thing is that you provide autonomy to the teams. So once they know what is expected from their side, so we see that actually it's a driver that helps them actually improve significantly in the way of how they can take some operational decisions, how they can actually steer at their operational level, let's say the orientations, for example, trying from the initiatives to, let's say, select the best features that can improve their products, take, let's say, some initiatives to improve their way of working, let's say, even so, like propose some new initiatives that could contribute more generally and provide, let's say, some new let's say business idea that can contribute to that OKR. So from the field, we see that it's really a big leverage that we propose more and more here in Europe, and people actually tend to address it and propose it as a new way actually of cementing their value chains.
Awesome, thank you. I think we are now sort of at a consensus in terms of the power of OKR, and not only in terms of ensuring alignment and driving sort of the business performance across the delivery value stream, but also in terms of the cultural sort of transformation that it leads to, and making sure that people are working towards the same goal at different levels. So with that, I think we are at the top of the hour there, Katrina.
Yes. So thank you, Irfan, for facilitating that very interesting discussion and so many key points related to OKRs and goals and you know, with digital products to market, you know, fantastic. So thank you to all the speakers today, Matt and Mehdi and Morgan and Sumit, for participating in today's webinar. It was fantastic. Irfan, anything that you want to say or?
Yeah, no, I think it's been awesome. It's been a learning experience for me, and I'm sure it's been a great learning experience for our audience. We understand the sort of the complexity of the challenge, but also the opportunity that's out there. I mean, the promise and the peril of the digital age stares at our faces every day. There's obviously a huge upside for people who are successful, and I think with DASA we are trying to help people become successful in their digital journeys and their evolution of becoming confident digital players. So look forward to keeping the connection with you folks, and invite you to be part of the community going ahead and contributing to, yeah.
And please do join our next event, which Irfan again will be moderating on DevOps at Scale on Thursday, the 30th of June at 4 p.m. Central European Time, where we will have another lot of speakers, actually again from Capgemini, a couple of speakers. So
yeah, that should be interesting.
And also, if there's anything that you guys would like to talk about, you know, contribute, please do. We're going to finish off with a poll at the end, so give your comments, rate, you know, this, you know, what you would like to hear in the future, and please be part of the Enterprise Leadership Forum. So thank you, everybody, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Goodbye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.